Well, once again, it's time, my friends, for another meet and greet. We're Southern Fried and nationwide, so hang on to your seat. Look around, here's what I found. I guess you'll never know what you'll see on the Southern Fried Podcast Show. Yeehaw!
Hey folks, Dave in the AM here with the Southern Fried Podcast and the Cornbread Nation. For many weeks now, me and Rob have been telling you about our affiliation with Dubby Energy Drinks. I've been drinking some of them on the show, and I just got in today the powder version, and this is the Pond Blom version of this. And hey, I tell you that it gives you the focus and the energy without the jitters or the crash. There's no sugars, no fillers, no artificial dyes. So get you some Dubby today. Use the promo code Southern Fried, and you'll get 10% off each and every order. Not only can you get the energy drinks, but you can also get some cool merch items. In fact, soon we're going to have a hat to show you as an example of some of those things. There's shirts and other things you can get as well as containers to mix up the powder and the water into that you can carry with you. We appreciate your support of the Southern Fried Podcast and also of Dubby Energy Drinks. We'll see you again soon. Take care. This is Rob and Dave with the Southern Fried Podcast. One of our shows that we love the most is Front Porch Talking. Our Friday night show, which starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, has become a tradition here at the Southern Fried. We appreciate you so much for stopping by on the front porch where we grab our sweet tea or coffee or whatever we're drinking and just sit on the front porch, wave at the neighbors as they go by, and just have a great discussion. We usually don't have a topic or theme. We just like to talk, and we like for you to stop by on the front porch as well. It's a Southern tradition, and Rob and Dave, we're all about the South. We live here in the state of Georgia, and all through the South or throughout wherever you live in the United States or the world, remember, as Rob says, it's a Southern state of mind. Join us each Friday night at 8 p.m. with our friends. Become part of that Cornbread Nation Breadhead crew, and join us on the front porch, and let's talk. Thank you so much. All right, welcome to the Southern Fried Podcast, Sports Talk, late night. A little bit later than I normally do sports talk, but I've been busy doing some other things. We hope everybody's doing well on this Tuesday night. It's a cold and blustery on Lambeau Field. That's what it feels like, with snow for many of you, or ice, or both. And in our forecast, we actually have some snow and other things predicted later in the week. Kiddos are already talking about being out of school. People are wondering how they're going to get to work, and it may impact some of the sporting contest. In fact, it may impact the Texas-Ohio State, I think I read. So we'll see. But hopefully wherever you are, you're warm and cozy, not having to be out in it. I'm Dave in the AM with the Southern Fried Podcast. We appreciate you being here tonight, and thank you for all the contact that you give us, and we appreciate the feedback that you do give us here at Southern Fried. We got a lot of good things cooking, as we say here in the South. We're cooking with grease. That's the only way. I've got a background I want to use. I was at a restaurant and they were talking about cooking. If it's not, it's good cooking if it's fried or something like that. And I like it, but we do have a lot of things we're working on. Remember, 2 new shows are appearing this month. Those will be added to as we go, but we are going to start Southern Fried MAGA on January 20th, the swearing in day. We'll be going live several times through the day. Several times. We will try to announce those times as we get a little closer. But looking for that, we'll be talking all things MAGA as we go forward with this show, as we see the changes that are really already occurring. So that'll be that. And then our Cornbread Nation show. Love the Cornbread Nation. Our breadheads, we've got new logos. We got hats that are coming, and we'll have some merch items soon for the Cornbread Nation. Be a breadhead. Go to the Facebook page, Cornbread Nation, and join. And we've got 70, some a little over 70 members there. And go be part of that and be a part of the charter members of the Cornbread Nation. I've got some new backgrounds and tabletop stuff ready to pick up at the printers. We're just got a lot of things really busy with. Talked to Rob earlier. He wasn't feeling great, so prayers for him. And we'll see him in the morning for the morning show, bright early, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the morning. We'll be there, and you'll be seeing us live on the air, Lord willing, if all things go as planned. And you know how things are. Life can get in the way, but we usually pretty solid on our shows and everything. And then tomorrow night, Hump Day News. I hope to have a couple of surprises for that. We will see. But anyway, let's talk sports. And got a few people in here tonight. We appreciate you joining. I hope you like sports. We're going to talk a little bit. This is not a show where we're going to throw a lot of statistics at you, but we will talk about some of the actions of the players and their accomplishments, rather, and some of those games. Because me and Cook and Cowboy Cook and Jeremy, Big Sexy, we have affectionately called him, and just to embarrass him, and he loves it though. He was working tonight, can't be here. We did some picks, and we did good on some of those picks, and we did bad. It's hard to pick the last week of the regular season of the NFL. We're going to let's talk about college a little bit tonight. But first of all, I want to look at the NFL. And, the last week for teams that are already in the playoffs, they're obviously going to rest their players, their star players, and there's the controversy on that. And there always is. So some teams got in, some teams got out. The game that I thought would be the game of the week, and it was for a while, turned out not to be the game of the week, and that was the Vikings and the Lions. Great first half. It got away from the Vikings in the second half, and we'll talk about that one in a minute. I thought it'd be very close all the way to the end. You got to give both these teams credit. They are clicking at a high rate of ability, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. A couple of thoughts about the game, but I do want to recognize a player very close to here that he was the star of the game. There's no doubt he was the star of the game. But we'll go down the list and look at some of the games that occurred. And then as we get ready for the NFL playoffs, again, bad weather across a lot of the U.S. For those games that are outdoor, could be impacts upon that. We'll just have to see how that goes. It's all part of it, right? That's why we love football. It's why we all played it when we were kids out in the backyard. We loved it when it snowed or rained or both, or we didn't care. And there's still that little kid in every player that loves that. But a lot's on the line. These are businesses, and these are business. These are people. This is their career. This is their job. This is how they make their money. But there's still that part of players that love it. Love the game. They have a love for the game, and they play it with a passion, and I appreciate that. The first controversy was the Chiefs, really, and some said they were avoiding the Cincinnati Bengals, who had been giving them fits. And so it's not often that you see the Chiefs get a goose egg. It was an ugly game. They rested some players, and the Broncos really took it to them, who needed that game to get in the playoffs, 38-0. 38-0. And, so they got a tough card. We'll talk about the games coming up soon. But, they put Carson Wentz in for Mahomes, and he didn't even get 100 yards passing. It was offensively, it was the worst I've seen the Chiefs have in a long, long time. And I don't think they cared. Obviously, they had everything wrapped up they needed to. They were just want to be healthy, and I get that. But for teams that are fighting to get in, like the Bengals, that's frustrating to them because they needed, they wanted Kansas City to help them out. Well, they didn't. So, I'm looking at the stats here. They barely got over 30 yards rushing. It's horrible. Horrible, I mean, like I said, Wentz had 98 yards, and and he was sacked 4 times. But it was an offensive show for the Broncos, and Bo Nix closed out really strong, 321 yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, he's been up and down through the year, but this is this kid from Auburn, and there was always talk he was going to be the Heisman Trophy winner, and he never made that. But that just seems to be a perfect match for him in Denver, and he does have a live arm. And like I said, he was 26 out of 29. He only had 3 misses the whole game. 321, averaged over 12 yards a pass. That Kansas City defense is a good defense. I've seen them give up some yardage before, but not like that. 4 touchdowns, and he turns around and he has another 47 on the ground, over 6.7 average on 7 attempts. Didn't get a touchdown there, so he accounted for over 360 yards of their offense, and then they had some other running backs chip in. So not much to say there. Blowout, and they spread. Bo Nix did spread the ball around a lot. I mean, he hit I'm taking a quick glance, about 8 different receivers in the game, and but they do have a tough draw. The kicker guy was 1 out of 1, but all things being, if all things were normal, which they weren't, the Chiefs, I'm sure they win this game. They've not been blowing people out, but Mahomes factor always wins out. Kelsey gets involved usually. And hey, Jerry, it's good to see you, brother. Thanks for being in the chat tonight. Hope things are good with you and church and everybody. Stay warm, brother. Absolutely, stay warm. We're doing some different shows tonight. We're doing a sports talk. We might do a late night. I don't know. Talk show too, but we'll be on in the morning as well and tomorrow night. So, but good to have you drop in, brother. I know it's late. Probably a lot of people in bed. If they're normal, they're in bed and winding down for the night. If you're me, I was doing a lot of podcast work. I said, I'm going live. So we hope to have, and I hope it's working. But we do have, we're doing an attempt tonight to do, and I want to see if it works. Hopefully it will. We're trying to do a live. I just clicked on it. I don't think I didn't do it right at first, but trying to go live with one of our audio feeds, and it's a test. It's a test. So we'll see how that works. But if you're listening from Podbean, welcome to the audio version of the show. We just clicked live on that. So I'm still learning how to do that, but glad to have you here. So yeah, this game was a complete blowout. The Falcons, I love them and I hate them. I mean, early on the defense was doing all the good play for Atlanta, and it was the offense that struggles. And Atlanta puts up 38 and loses. I mean, in overtime. Penix gets his first rushing touchdown, I think it was, and it was 5 yards, but it looked like he was laboring to get 5 yards. He's not slow, but I don't know. It was an odd run, but he made it. But he throws for 312, 2 TDs, interception was included. But Bijan Robinson, my goodness, this young man, he rushed for 170, 2 touchdowns. This goes off the back of the game last week, which was incredible. But London with Drake London, 10 out of 18 for 187. Wow, 2 touchdowns. He's really coming along, and they really Penix really spreads the ball around well. McLeod had 66, Hodge had 24, Algier, the running back, 17, and Pitts still not showed up. 2 catches out of 3 attempts, but only 15 yards. Pitts is a disappointment. I really thought this was the year he was going to step up. Well, their season's over now because they lost to the Panthers, and but they do have a good foundation here. They're really close, and if they could shore up the defense, the mission is clear. All they need on offense is maybe look at a tight end, that tight end position. It should be better, but if they're going to ride with it, they've got a couple of backups, ain't bad. But they need probably one more receiver, not high draft pick, but they probably need to bring in somebody or draft one mid-round. That just somebody to supplement what they've got, because they've got some good talent, and they have a player coming back from injury as well. but they need defense. They have got to get a pass rush, and they have got to get people. They've got to slow down people. They were getting eat alive in the passing game these last few weeks. And you look at the scores, but you scored 38. You should be, right there winning games, and they gave up 44. So sad, end of another season for my beloved Atlanta Falcons, but there's always hope for tomorrow. And they, we'll see. So anyway, Dave in the AM here with the Southern Fried Podcast. And let's talk sports through these games. I'm going to come back to that Vikings game because there was some things about it I want to talk about. More controversy. The Jets do beat Miami, and Tyreek Hill says he's done in Miami. That's caused a stir. But Miami was expecting to do a lot better than they did. Of course, they've had injuries as well, but they did rest. They did start Huntley. And so we'll see how they progress here. He had 227, a touchdown, but 2 interceptions, sacked 4 times. And the Jets, who have looked horrible, actually looked, all world in this game. A Kane, which I really like him, 121 and a touchdown. So they got some things on the ground there. And the tight end ended up having 56 yards and a touchdown, but they spread the ball around really good. He hit about 9 different receivers, 8 or 9. In the game. But what about the Jets? Jets, Jets. They get it done. Rodgers has 274, 4 touchdowns. Looks like the Aaron Rodgers of old, right? Did have an interception. Lazard missed on 1 pass. Hall had 57, and Davis had 41. Not great on the ground, no touchdowns. But through the air, they had, again, about 8 different receivers. Devontae Adams, 88, and a touchdown. Lazard, 71 and a touchdown. Conklin pitched in a touchdown, and so did Hall, the running back, a touchdown. The Jets were disappointment, though. Aaron Rodgers, where does this go? That game was an anomaly because he's needed more receivers. They've not really panned out, I don't think, for those, for what they were doing. And of course, there's a lot. Is he over the hill? Probably, but he's still Aaron Rodgers. But the Jets, still like the Falcons. I mean, they're competition for see who can put up the most promises and then fail. I love them. I mean, I love the Falcons, but that's true. It's Heartbreak City every year. And there's talk they're going to fire their GM. There's a lot of rumors about it. And again, the big contract, they gave, Penix was going to be the guy all along. You knew that was going to happen. I said it would happen halfway through the season. It was a little later than that. They were being stubborn about it. I've got no problem with the guy they went and got, but it was a massive amount of money, and they knew they were going to get Penix. That's who they identified in the draft. That's who they wanted. I think it's a good pick, but now they're saddled with 3 more years of a massive contract for a guy who's unless they can get somebody to take that. And I doubt they will, but you never know in the NFL. The Falcons, though, it'll be Penix and Drake London and Bijan. Boy, looks great. Bijan Robinson. We knew that was a great pick. They made funnies about Atlanta selecting him early as a running back. So you don't do that. I disagreed. I thought he was a generational. I thought he was just going to look great. And they've got Algier as a compliment. And I think both of those together are really, they've got a solid contribution there. The 49ers go down again. A lot of injuries. They said today that some of them would have been back for the playoffs. Well, they don't have to worry about it. They're not going to make it. They're out. 47 Arizona puts up a lot of scoring on them. I mean, nearly double. 47-24. And again, it's just very disappointing. But again, they had players out. Dobbs comes in. I like old Dobbs. He played at Tennessee. And he had a really good game, all things considered. I mean, for him, he's a that goes around and gets picked up by teams, and he comes in and he gives them a nice boost when he's in there. 326, 2 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions, 2 sacks. The running back Taylor did have over 100 yards, not much beyond that. And they spread the ball around to about 11 different receivers. So, but it was all Cardinals. Murray 242, 4 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks. Several running backs chipping in. Looks like they had a little, just slightly over 100 yards total. And about 7 different receivers. They mixed it up with McBride, 65 with a touchdown. Harrison Jr. there, 5 out of 6 there for 63 and a touchdown. He didn't have quite the year I thought he would have, but he's going to be fine. They're still finding themselves, and he's an amazing talent. He had a touchdown as well. And then Dortch, 4 out of 4 for 47, 2 touchdowns, making it count every single time. And Zay Jones, 45. And there's a couple of others, but Arizona gets it done 47 to 24. That's you don't usually see the 49ers getting drilled like that. So not that I mind. I can't stand them. I never liked them. They were in the NFC West, or when it used to be called that, the Rams, the 49ers, and the Saints and the Falcons. Oh my goodness. Then they made that South division, and of course it's the Panthers and the Saints and the Falcons and Tampa Bay, who looks great. And they'll be moving on. Chargers over the Raiders. The Raiders just limped out. This whole season has been a wash for them. Herbert had 346, 2 touchdowns, no picks, a sack. Dobbins 63 on the ground, and the quarterback had 42. Haskins 33 and a touch. And a guy that really hasn't been awesome all year, but Johnston, 186. He caught everything thrown to him but one. He was targeted 14 times, caught 13 of them. Didn't have a touchdown, but he averaged over 14 yards a catch. Great job there. I mean, that's a good young talent there. And our goal boy, Ladd McConkey, he is from Georgia, has really had a great season as a rookie. He caught 5 out of 8 for 95, no touch. Disley, the tight end, he had 42 and a touchdown. And then Chark, wide receiver, had a touchdown as well. But this was all about the Chargers, the Raiders. Again, they had barely over 200 yards. You have a couple of touchdowns through the air, nothing on the ground. But Myers did have a good game, 9 out of 10 for 123 and a touchdown. And another old Georgia boy, Brock Bowers, in this game, tight end, of course, he set the rookie record at tight end. 9 targets, 4 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. Nice close there. You just hate to see him on a team like that. I hope things get better for him, but that was a blowout. The Seahawks over the Rams. I thought the Rams might pull this out. I think I picked the Rams when we were doing picks. Seattle has, though, looked good towards the end of the year. Throughout, mid-year on has really been doing well. Geno Smith, 223, 4 touchdowns and no picks. He'd have a couple of sacks. Charbonnet, 59 on the yard, on the ground. Another former dog, Kenny McIntosh, 49 on the yard, no touchdowns, but he averaged 7 yards a rush. Him and the quarterback both averaged 7, although Geno only had 2 attempts for 14, 7 yards a clip. But Kenny McIntosh, just through the injuries, has been able to get in there, and he was always a solid player at Georgia. I would never envision him being a star, but he's definitely a player that you can plug in, and he's not a fumbler. He's steady. Maybe this is a good opportunity for him to make a name for himself going into next year. If not for them, for somebody else. So you're always on audition, especially late in the year as teams are looking at players. If it's not a contract, coming up, they can do trades. So we'll see. Noah Fant, always liked him. 63 and a touch. Metcalf, boy, he's a beast. He had 53 and a touchdown. And the other tight end had a touchdown as well. They spread the ball around really well, about 8 different receivers. And Jigbu, he's just not really had the year that I thought he would have either, but there's a lot of talent there. So we'll see. But Seattle gets it done. The Rams, they started to back up. But Garoppolo had 334, 2 touchdowns, but he was sacked 3 times with interception. So the Rams go down. A lot. They use their tight ends a lot. They really move the ball around well. I mean, they hit about 9 different receivers in this game. So it was a close game, but Seattle gets it done. The Saints go again down to the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers look great. I mean, who would have figured, it's not been that long ago that, that our old boy, Mayfield was looking for a job. I mean, he was in Cleveland and he had that, game where he went to the Rams and he, really no preparation, comes out and wins a game for him. Tampa Bay goes and gets him. You always felt like he had the talent if he could get in the right position. Well, he's found it. And, they get it done. He had 221, 2 touchdowns. He did have a pick and a sack, but they're really solid. Their defense is good. The big news in this game was Evans, the receiver, 11 straight years, 1,000 yards, receiving. And amazing. I think Jerry Rice I think they said was the only other one to ever do that, that he's right behind him. But you're talking, he's always done it. I mean, he's just always been that. And he made it, he had 89 yards. And it's nice when you can see a player hit those milestones and it works out that the team wins. They get their yards and everything. So he didn't have a touch, but he was targeted 14 times, nine receptions, 89 yards. Very nice. Very nice. This is a solid team top to bottom. I don't think they'll win the Super Bowl, but they're a very good team and they're going to hurt somebody. But New Orleans, I'm sorry, I don't like the Saints, but I do like Spencer Rattler and I wish him well. The former South Carolina, transfer, came over to South Carolina, had a good year for them last year. I do like him and I wish him well. I think he's got an amazing arm. If he just gets a shot, I don't think it's not going to be the Saints, but I think this kid could start somewhere. I really do. But he's definitely a guy. He's a gunslinger. He comes in, he can light you up. He had 240 and a touch, no interceptions. Good job, young man. Good job. He was 26 out of 42, slightly less than 10 yards a throw. He was sacked a couple of times. They didn't get much on the ground, so it was all on him. And he spread the ball around to about 11 different receivers. Good job, Spencer Rattler. Again, they know what they got. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe he could be the starter there. But I do like Spencer Rattler. And I wish him well. He had, he carries himself well. I've heard him say some things in games after college games and stuff where he could have chose a different route. And he's always taken the high road and been a sportsman. And I appreciate it from what I've seen. There might have been times he didn't, but I've never seen that. The Jaguars go down again in overtime to the Colts. Both these teams have underperformed this year. I think we picked the Colts to win this game when we did our picks, if I remember Cook. I think you're listening in tonight. Pardon me. But, neither one of these teams have been lighting it up. And, what do the Jaguars do? They've got a lot of questions answered before next year, a lot of questions. And I think it was a proof for them to get the new stadium, right, if I remember right. I mean, they've got a lot of support. There was talk they would even leave that city at one time, but things have settled. They were a playoff team. It fell apart. I'm just not sure where they go. I'm not saying they're going to dump the quarterback, but he's not looked good. I mean, he just fell off the and Bigsby, I really thought would emerge. Him and Etienne sort of had equal splits in this game. They both had, Bigsby did have the touchdown, but he was an amazing talent at Auburn. I really thought he would bust out in the NFL, and he may still. He's very young, and this may be an opportunity for him. They may take the lesser contract and move on Etienne. So we'll see. But I think they got talent, and they've always had good defense. But they got questions to answer. And the Colts, Flacco has been good as a guy coming in as a backup. He had a good game. He's not a starter anymore full time. He's going to be the guy that comes in. His stage in his career and the age he is. But it's good to have a guy like that, and it worked out for him. I'd say they'll probably try to keep him around. But both these teams really did underperform for the season. Let's come back to that game. Another one that surprised me was the Bears beating the Pack. I didn't anticipate that happening. The Bears end up 5-12. Packers, of course, 11-6. I was shocked at that, but and there wasn't a lot of passing in this for the Bears, but they were able to figure it out. He did have 148. Williams did, and a touchdown. Our old boy from Georgia, DeAndre Swift, excuse me, he's 65 and a touchdown. Not much else. They did have a few receivers, but the Bears get it done. Bears top of game, gut it out. And of course, the Packers did have Love in there for a bit and then removed him. And then Malik Willis comes in, doesn't have a great showing, but he was 10 out of 13 for 136. But again, it's end of season. Some teams just being careful with their star players as they know where they're at. There's no real advantage to winning the game. But I'm not saying they wanted to lose, especially against the Bears. But the Bears get it done. They go out on somewhat of a high note, and they've got to have a good draft and get ready for next year. I mean, they've got their guy at quarterback. They've got some nice pieces, but they still need a lot. They're not ready to compete on the prime time. Another game was the Bills going down to the Patriots. Just odd stuff at the end of the season here. Of course, the Bills already in 13-4. The Patriots 4-13. So it's a tale of two cities and two stories. Trubisky played in place of Allen, and 1-on-1 and a touchdown. He's never panned out. Old former Bear, and New England. Again, but the one cool thing about this game was the appearance of Milton, the former Tennessee quarterback. 22 out of 29, 241 and a touchdown, no interceptions, and no sacks. And now talking about a guy that has an arm. May only threw one pass, and he was 0 for 1, and Milton had the game. And good job, young man. I mean, getting your opportunity there, and you get a win over Buffalo. However you get it, it's a win. Gibson had 41 on the ground. Jennings 20, not much there. Another appearance of another young guy was Boutte out of LSU, 7 out of 7. This guy's an amazing talent too. 117 and a touchdown. Now this is nice for the Patriots to build on. This is nice. I think the Patriots are kind of making their way back from the losses of all the star players and everything, and of course the change at coach. I think they're starting to really put together some a solid team here, and so we'll see going into next year what their moves they make in the offseason. But I'm not saying the Patriots will make a huge move, but I see them getting better, and that was a good sign. Some of those young players that they've been waiting on, some of them had injuries early on. Some of them just hadn't had a chance to play, showing their stuff in the last game of the season. Way to go, young men. Good job. Texans squeak out one against the Titans. The Titans are horrible. I'm sorry, Titans fans, they're horrible. You know it. Everybody knows it. They've got a lot of questions to answer. The Texans, I think they underperformed. Stroud didn't. They got their guys, so they kept him in there only a part of the time. 6 out of 6 for 50 yards and a touch, and they pull him. They're ready to move on. Mills comes in, gets 128. He's always been a solid backup. Pierce, 176 on the ground and a touchdown. He had that long 92-yard touchdown run. I was able to see that as I flipped around to different games. Good job. I mean, he's always been a good talent. Mixon didn't have much, 23. The story was Pierce here in this game, and the receivers, I think they hit about 12 different receivers. He was throwing it all around. But good job. And for the Titans, where do they go? I mean, they played both quarterbacks. Levis he was 9 out of 17, 175 and a touchdown. Mason Rudolph comes in 7 out of 9, 70 yards, no touchdowns. The Titans they're a mystery. I mean, they had Malik Willis at one point, moved him on. Of course, Derrick Henry was moved on to Baltimore, which is probably going to be your Super Bowl champion team. That's been my prediction all year. They're going to win. We'll see. They've got to get past that failure in the playoffs they've been having, but all the talent's there. But Tennessee goes with the young guy Levis. He did not look good, and I watched some of his passes, and they were sailing on him. He missed wide open receivers. Again, maybe just go through another camp, get comfortable, get some more players around him. I mean, Pollard had a decent game. He's a good player. But they've got huge questions. Houston is the team that's obviously moving on. Tennessee, horrible. I mean, I'm not going to spend much time on Tennessee because they're just horrible. And like I said, Titans fans are frustrated. They know it too. They're getting the new stadium, so got to get things better. A closer game than I thought, the Eagles and the Giants. The Giants have been playing better of late, but the Eagles do win. Drew Lock for the Giants, 138 and a touch. He did have an interception. So they played some solid ball, not great, but they did play solid. Malik Neighbors did have the 5 catches for 64 and a touchdown, and he's obviously a great talent. They got some stuff to build on. Is Drew Lock the guy? I don't know. I don't know where they go with this, but we'll see. But the Eagles, playoff bound, playing some backups, a lot of backups, and still get it done. That's a really, really good team. I know, Cook, you hate to hear that if you're in this stream tonight. Cowboy Cook. We're going to talk about your game in just a minute, but they do get it done. And of course, the Saturday games we'd already talked about. The Bengals edge out the Steelers, and the Ravens destroy the Browns, which that's not saying much. All right, 2 games I didn't talk about. I want to talk about. First of all, we'll look at the Cowboys and the Commanders. I thought the Cowboys were going to pull this thing out. I really did. The difference maker, is these Commanders. They really rise up. Of course, Mariota. There's a Mariota sighting. Daniels only 6 out of 12 for 38, but Mariota comes in 161 and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 2 sacks though. And he had another 56 and a touchdown on the ground. So he's had over 200 yards of offense, 3 touchdowns, what he was responsible for. And they get it done. And, of course, the Cowboys put Trey Lance in, and, he didn't have a bad game, 244, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 2 sacks. I don't know. Dowdle, he's okay, Cook. I mean, if you're listening, he's okay at running back. And Deuce Vaughn, he's not a starter, but he can plug in. But they need help. They need help. They need help at running back. They've got decent receivers. I think they've got all they need to have. But the Cowboys did not have a great year. Jerry's boys do not get it done. And they'll be going into next year. Jerry is not getting any younger. I don't know if Jerry's ever going to see another Super Bowl. This is a big letdown year for the Cowboys. Even Cowboy Cook's been calling them the Cowgirls. I'm not a Dallas Cowboy fan, but I do recognize, when great teams are great, this is not a great team. They had problems. And I predicted going into the season that it all rested upon the quarterback. Of course, with injuries and other things, it all fell apart. And so we'll see what moves they make in the offseason as well, because I got to think Jerry's going to make some moves. Says the coach is safe and all that. That's always a death knell. He's playing nice. He's saying all the right things with a smile, as Jerry is, but I don't know. He's going to make some moves. He's getting far behind in that division. Philadelphia is the class. They are. Washington's came on. The Giants are not good, but they're playing better of late. The Cowboys, they're just not in the talk. And so, we'll see how good they do as they go forward. But, do they stay with their quarterback, or do they make some moves? I mean, they've locked in a big contract, and he's a talent. He's a great talent. But, kind of bombed in the playoffs. Well, they ain't going to have to worry about this year. But decimated by injuries. And they just didn't get it done. And that's shocking. I really am. I really thought they would play better than this. I thought they had the talent to be competitive, and it just didn't happen. Some seasons just fall apart, Some seasons just fall apart. Well, let's talk about this game, the Vikings and the Lions. It was the first time this late in the season, I think, it ever been 14-2 teams to play, and they're both just been clicking at a high rate. This game was really tight going into halftime. I mean, 10-6, and a game of really, really close. You kind of felt like the Vikings were really close to breaking out with their great wide receiver. amazing talent that when he's on, nobody can stop him. Well, I think the problem here is Darnold had a bad game. That's one of the problems. They had a bad game. The Lions went in with the idea to just blitz constantly on them and feeling like they could get there, and if they laid back and eat them apart, it worked. I mean, you got to give the defensive coordinator a lot of credit. Darnold doesn't even break 200. He was sacked twice. Akers had 65 and Jones 45 on the ground. Not much more there. And the great Justin Jefferson, 9 targets, 3 receptions, 54 yards, no touchdowns. That says it all. It just the passes were sailing for Darnold, and for all the great things they were talking about. And they said, he usually misses high when he's missing. I don't know if he got amped up too much. Maybe the pressure messed with him. He was a little bit slow of getting release of the ball sometimes. Give it to the Lions. I mean, they came back in the second half and just poured it on. So they ended up closing out 2 touchdowns in the fourth, 1 in the third. And but the storyline of this game was really Jamar Gibbs, and just this guy's a solidifier for him. He had an amazing game last week, and he comes back at Goff has 231 and only 1 touchdown, intercepted twice with 2 sacks. There was a time in this game he didn't look good. But Jamar Gibbs from Dalton, Georgia, played at the University of Alabama, 23 attempts, 139 on the ground, 3 touchdowns, one of those along of 47. He chips in another 31 and a touchdown through the air. Early in that game, if you saw it, he got planted. I can't remember that defensive player for the Vikings. It was a little out pass, little lateral out pass. And it was one of those deals about the time he caught it, he was being squared up by the linebacker, and he got planted. It was a hard hit. Thank goodness he's young. Thank goodness for youth. This young man got planted. He had to go. He went to the sideline, shook it off, came back, had a great game. A great young talent. Plays with a lot of poise. He plays with toughness. He just seems to have that it factor. He had that in college and in high school as well. I mean, he's just always had that. He's a great kid. I've met people that know him, grew up with him, he played a lot of soccer too back in high school. Met people that know him, grew up, and they played soccer with him. They talked about what a nice young man he was. They were so happy the opportunities he's made for himself. I mean, he has the talent. He's worked hard, and he was blessed to go to the Lions, who have just put together a pretty incredible team, a pretty incredible coach, and the city is fired up and behind them. So they're not 14-2 anymore. Of course, the Vikings 14-3, and then the Lions get their 15th win. If only Barry Sanders could have been around for something like that. I hate it. Barry always played for bad teams, but what a great talent. But they move on, and so these are these were bad games. Really, most of them were bad games. That's that last week. There was only a couple that were decent. So let's look at the wild card matchups this weekend. A lot of teams go home. On Saturday at 4:30 on CBS, we have the Chargers against the Texans. I would say for me, the Chargers probably look like the winner here because the Texans have underperformed. It's close, but I think I would give the Chargers the edge here. I think they just have a little bit more experience. The Texans are a very young team. They have brought in like Diggs, and they've got some veterans, but and that's not to say they can't win this game. They can. There are some injuries this time of year. You've always got some injuries. I don't think any of these injuries will play a huge part, but there is like Palmer's out at wide receiver for the Chargers, and they've got one questionable. Houston has 4 out, 2 questionable. But again, none of these are the main starters, but are important players. I'm not saying they're not important, but I think the Chargers win this game. This game is your 4:30 game, and it is in Houston, though. But I still think the Chargers come out on top. But this is a chance for Houston to show what they can do. There'll be some points scored in this game, no doubt. The night game on 8 p.m., this is your Amazon Prime game of the week. Now for the wild card, the Ravens have the Steelers. And, of course, they're playing in Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore's all world. You know what? I just don't think there's any chance for the Steelers to win this game. This would be a huge meltdown if the Ravens lost this game. Nothing against the Steelers. They're playing solid. I just think the Ravens are too much. This game is almost a 10 spread right now. And I anticipate it could be 2 touchdowns, maybe even 17. The Steelers defense will help hold them for a while. They're not going to be able to stop the Ravens. That's my prediction. Again, the Ravens are my Super Bowl pick, and they're going to play really strong. Let's move to the Sunday games, and then we have a Monday game. The Sunday games, the first one at 1 p.m. on CBS, Broncos against the Bills. Yeah, the Broncos got in. You got your game. Kansas City throw the goose egg up. But the Bills are going to beat you. And, they have to go, they just, they're not going to win this game. Buffalo's just too good for them. It's the weather's going to be 28 degrees overcast, wind speeds 13 miles an hour. Buffalo's going to win this game. I like Buffalo. I've always have, back to the days of Jim Kelly and Thurman and all them, Reed and all those great players that went to the Super Bowl but never won. They have a chance this year. They do have a chance, but they got to get past Baltimore. But right now, they got the Broncos. Nothing against the Broncos, but I see the Bills winning this game. I'm going to skip this game. Come over to the Commanders and Buccaneers. This is a heck of a matchup. It's a really evenly matched game, I believe, between the Commanders and the Buccaneers. This is the 8:15 game on NBC on Sunday p.m. And it is in Tampa. This game could go either way. I will give Tampa the edge playing at home, but I am not counting out the Commanders in this game. The Bucs are laying 3. I think that's probably pretty safe. This game probably is going to come down to a field goal. Could even be overtime. These are 2 evenly matched teams, in my opinion. And the defenses are going to play really well. The offenses they'll score, but I just think Buccaneers with the way their quarterback's playing, Evans, the defense. I like a lot of things the Commanders are doing, but I think this is a game where they play tough, but they sort of come back to the ground just a little bit. The Commanders could win this game, but I think the Buccaneers win this thing. The Monday night game, ABC, ESPN, Vikings and Rams. Is this where the Vikings get their revenge for the last game? They are playing in Inglewood, and this is a pretty good matchup here. But I don't know. This game could go either way. Darnold will have to have a better game. If Darnold plays like he did this past week, the Rams are going to win this game. But this should be a good matchup. They'll score some points as well. Should be the second highest scoring game possibly of the week. Very, very possible. They're going to put the ball up a lot. And Vikings, you better play well, or I see the Rams winning this game. But I don't like to count against him with Jefferson. He's just such a talent. Nobody can really guard him. If Darnold's on, the key to this game will be Sam Darnold. Can he play to his capabilities in this game? We'll see. And then the last one we'll look at, Sunday, the 4:30 game, which really to me should be the late game. Eagles and Packers. Wow, what a great matchup. Eagles are definitely going to be favored in this game. This game is in Philly. The Philly crowd will be out in force and loud and proud and all that stuff that they do there, which we won't name. But Green Bay is a really good team. I like what they got going on. I absolutely think they could win this game. But I think Philly wins. But if I was going to predict an upset for the weekend, this might be the game, because I do like a lot of things that the Packers are doing. It's unfortunate they're not playing in Lambeau. If they were in Lambeau, I think they win. But they can win this game. The Eagles sometimes have bad, if Hurts is playing, well, and they're probably rolling. But this is a great game. This is really good matchups. I don't think the Bills Broncos will be that close. I don't see that. And I don't think the Ravens Steelers is going to be a close game. I think the Chargers Texans game will be rather close. I think this Packers Eagles game has somebody could get behind in this thing and get rolled if they're not careful. But I think it will be within a touchdown. And then I think the really close one is going to be the Commanders Buccaneers. I kind of think the Vikings Rams somebody's going to jump up and win by 10 or more. I just think that there's going to be some interceptions or the turnovers will tell the tale. They're going to light it up. I don't know. I just feel like maybe Darnold comes back, but that game shook them. They didn't play good on offense, and the Rams are going to have no mercy on them. So I don't know. What say you? Give us your thoughts. Put in chats or send us a. I'd love to hear your picks. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I'll be looking forward to watching as many of these games as I can, and we'll come back and talk about it. Playoffs are brutal. You win, you go. You lose, you go home and go to the beach, I guess, or Disney World or somewhere. Heal up. But, the powerhouses are on display, the Bills and the Eagles and certainly the Ravens. These are powerhouse teams that are ready to get rolling. Of course, then you'll have the buys. Those that are sitting and watching these games, which is nice for them. They can heal up a little bit more, have more time to prepare, look and see who they're going to be playing, and get going. If there was an upset that would be the shocking one, I don't think it'll happen. I just don't see any way it's going to happen. But if the Steelers somehow rise up and beat Baltimore, that throws a wrench in everything. And if that were to happen, I think the Bills go to the Super Bowl. I do. I think that Kansas City is the Mahomes factor only goes so far, and they have just not played to the level. I think the Bills, and they got them earlier. I think the Bills would be my pick to go from the AFC. So Ravens, I don't think they're losing this game. It's the next game that'll be the question. That's when Jackson just hasn't played well. And he overthrew in that playoff game last time. I mean, he didn't have a good game. And but there's a season under their belt. They licked their wounds. They got back, got to work. They got Derrick Henry now. That's going to settle a lot of things. So, and I'm really rooting for the Bills. One of the main reasons is James Cook, the running back from Georgia. I love that kid. I mean, he's such a great player. Dalvin's little brother, not a little brother anymore as far as playing. I mean, he's a star now, and I thought he would be with his receiving ability that he has as a guy who can come out of the backfield. But he is running the ball really well too, and they've got some good talent there. The Bills are loaded, and I just think that I think Kansas City is going to come up a little short. Never count out Mahomes. I get it. He's that magician, finds a way to win, but I just think they're gonna come up a little bit short. And I think it's going to be Baltimore that does it to them, or the Bills. So we'll see. We'll see how these brackets go. And I'm not looking at the bracket right now. So, but one of those teams will face them, and we'll see. Of course, like I said, I say that, and they'll come out and kill somebody. And Kelsey 3 touchdowns. Mahomes runs in one. You just never know with them. But they've struggled a little bit. They're offensively. They've struggled. A lot of their passes, their marches down the field have been long drives, which is nothing wrong with that. But the deep pass has not been there for them. I mean, ever since really Tyreek left, they've not had the deep game that they had before. It's a lot of ball control, dips and dunks and outs and runs by the quarterback, tight ends obviously with Kelsey, getting that underneath, and they have other really good tight ends as well. Kelsey's getting a little long, but he's a player that will shine in the playoffs. He's a player that will rise for this. And so we'll just have to see. But let's see what happens with these games this weekend, and we'll go there from there. Just lastly, before we go in, we close this one out. Again, college games coming up, and we're down to those games as well. So we'll see. Kind of how those go. Does the weather impact them? Some think it might, and we'll just have to see where that goes. But the playoffs for college continues on, and we'll just have to see. Who comes out on top? Do you like Penn State? Do you like Notre Dame? Do you like Ohio State or Texas? I feel like that it's between whoever wins the Ohio State, Texas is going to take this thing. I predicted that Notre Dame will lose to Penn State. That's a heck of a matchup. That may be the best game of the day, honestly. Those other teams are powerhouses, and who's got the upper hand and goes. That's going to be great football, great football to watch, and I can't wait to see how these do. So it's going to be fun. The only thing I hate is you get to playoffs. It's almost time for football to be over for the year, and you're like, no. Hey, I like a little baseball. We do root a little. I watch a little basketball, not much, but baseball be coming back around. Maybe you're a hockey fan, and soccer or whatever. But I do love football, American football, and root for that is, have my teams I like. But I like to watch all of it. Been a fantasy commissioner for years. I'm not doing it now. But I like players from all over the league. I love to watch and root for players. But my teams have went in the tank this year. So I'm not like some people, they say, well, my team's are out of it. I don't care now. I do care. I like to watch. I like to see how these games go as we get into the playoffs. It's a whole different season, as we know. And the games are different. They're usually tighter. And, the scoring is down a lot sometimes. And we'll see where that goes. But it's great products on the field. And, of course, the draft order has mainly been set in the upper part of the draft order. And, teams will be looking into the draft. I don't know how I feel about the draft. There's some good talent coming out. I don't think it's the caliber as far as star power that I've seen before, but overall it should be pretty deep and a lot of things that people need from offensive linemen, defense. There are some quarterbacks, certainly there are some quarterbacks that are coming out that are going to be there, but this draft's a little bit different. But for teams that's near the top that need to get some receiver help, there's certainly that there, or defensive help. That's certainly there as well, and offensive line, but not what I've seen. We'll see who declares, but some of them already have. 3 Georgia players have declared already, and players are declaring. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But all right, well, we'll end this thing here in just a minute. Welcome to SFP Sports. I'm Dave in the AM, your host, and we appreciate you listening in. And come back and be with us, and we'll update. We'll get back in for the games as well. Hopefully your team is in the playoffs, and you're looking forward to a good weekend of games, and hopefully you'll get your win. It's a fun time. If you there's games I remember throughout watching playoff football with the NFL, and there's just some that are iconic and they just stand out. And we remember, those game-winning drives like the 49ers. I don't like them, but I got respect for Joe Montana. The drive. They go down there and get it done. Dwight Clark, who could forget that? And then the ones that melt down, or the what was it? The Titans. I mean, what was it? A foot? He's away from the goal line. I mean, that's a dagger in Titans' hearts. And but you remember that it stays with you. It's a part of you if you're a sports fan. As they always said, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And it is that. If you've been in the games, if you've been to a game and you're watching, that's a long ride home when your team loses. I mean, it's when it's really close. It comes down to the last, few minutes or a few seconds, and it's a field goal. You make it or you miss it. I mean, how many? Buffalo, oh my goodness, and there's been so many teams that have had that problem. They get down and it's the team, the Warriors have battled, then the kicker comes in and just misses the kick. And everything goes, it's a good snap, good hold, and he just misses it. And he's got to live with that. That's tough. Or it's a fumble or an interception, mismanage of the ball, or one of those snaps that goes over the quarterback's head right at the worst time, that could ever happen. And, the team goes home and those things, they stick with you as a player for sure. But as fans as well, we ride with it, right? We ride with them, and we remember that. But have fun with it. That's what it's all about. It's America, freedom, and apple pie, and football. Love it. So we'll see you again soon, and we'll give you a salute. Thanks for your support of the Southern Fried Podcast and for watching in however much you do. We appreciate that very much. And we hope we bring some value to you in your podcast and your listening. We appreciate us giving you some of your time out of your life. You never get it back. I hope you didn't waste it. I think I enjoy it, though, but we'll see you soon. We'll see you in the morning for sure. Don't know if I might be back in a few minutes, but if not, I'll see you in the morning. Take care.